Welcome to British Biomedicine Institute. Today, Dr. Pramod Khatri, is going to represent a simple topic named as innovative design in clinical trials. So, what is a adaptive design? Basically, a clinical trial design which allows for prospectively planned modifications from one or two aspects of a design which is based on accumulating the clinical data from the participating subjects. So basically there is a lot of scope of discussions. There can be an unplanned chain based on comparative interim results, protocol amendments based on informations from sources like internal to the study, and there are various types of adaptive designs like adaptations which can be based on baseline characteristics, adaptations which are based on pooled outcome data, adaptation which are based on the comparative data like group sequence design, like adaptation to the sample size, adaptation to subject population, adaptation to treatment arm selection, adaptation to patient allocation, and adaptation to the endpoint selection. So adaptation to the statistical aspect of design, like your primary estimated estimate typically doesn't estimate typically doesn't change, like your group sequential design, it do not change. And if there is an adaptation to the sample size, like, or we can say statistical informations like your analysis schedule, your decision criteria, your randomization ratio, they basically do not change. And there can also be adaptation to the scientific aspect of design, like your primary estimation, which can change, like adaptations to the patient populations, they can change, treatment arm selection and endpoint selections. So now comes the advantage motivation for adaptations, like they can show the advantage in statistical efficiency, like a greater chance of detecting a drug effect at a given expected sample size. There can be an ethical advantage also, like we can stop the trial if the data which we are getting from the patient is inconsistent or unreliable, or it doesn't show the effect evidence of important effect, or we can say efficacy. And it is also show the advantage for understanding the drug effect, like improved estimation of drug response relationship in study with adaptive dose selection. So there are limitations for the adaptations, like if the methodology changes, we can ensure that the control of chance of erroneous conclusion, there will be reliability in the estimations like biasness or clinical coverage. Operational challenges can also come in maintaining the confidentiality and trial integrity of the patients, and there is a potential change in interpretability due to change in the estimate of the interest. So there are various complex adaptive designs, like which often include multiple layer of adaptations, example to treat arm and sample size. They often include adaptations to the scientific aspect of the designs, example to the estimate. They often involve stimulation in order to evaluate operative characteristics. For example, previous to it was used to evaluate the ZMAB medicine for the Ebola virus disease, or I-SPY2 was used to screen the breast cancer patients. So there are a lot of considerations for the adaptive designs, like your control of chance of erroneous conclusions, reliability of estimation of treatment effects, extent of pre-specifications of details of design, confidentiality to comparative interim result, and prevention of trial integrity, documentation, and additional considerations are also considered. So controlling the chance of erroneous conclusion, incorrect conclusion of safety and efficacy, or there can be incorrect conclusion of lack of safety or effectiveness, or there is a misleading estimate which contribute to evaluation of benefit risk ratio. Effectiveness typically is evaluated through the test of null hypothesis, and we can use the adaptive design which can inflate our type 1 error probability. We can consider the test methods with error probability control supported by the theory and comprehensive stimulation. So now comes the estimation of reliability. It is basically accurate and precise estimate which facilitate the risk-benefit evaluation and appropriate labeling reporting to enable evidence-based medicine. Adaptations which can include are bias, incorrect confidence interval coverage, and to some method there can also exist the existing estimates. So there are an extent of pre-specifications, like extent of prospective planning, it can vary. We can it could include anticipated numbers and timing of interim analysis, types of adaptations, statistical method for interim and final analysis, algorithm governing adaptation decisions. And there can also be possible motivation for pre-specifications. We can facilitate use of appropriate inferential method for many types of adaptations. It can increase the confidence that adaptations not based on accumulating knowledge in an unplanned way. It also motivates careful planning. It reduces the desire for the sponsor to assess comparative interim data. We ensured that the DMC it involved in adaptive process, focusing on the patient safety and trial integrity. So we can maintain the trial integrity with the help of recommended ICH E9 rule, which states that access to comparative interim result in all the trial limited to individuals independent of personal conducting or managing the clinical trial, and the knowledge can affect conduct of sponsor investigators participants in a way difficult to predict and adjust for. It also provides the confidence that unplanned design can change based upon the external information, which is not motivating the cumulating data. There can also be additional considerations with adaptive designs like dedicated adaptations committee versus DMC, confidentiality agreement, physical or logistic firewalls, data access plan, steps to minimize the knowledge inferred through the adaptation. So the possible documentations can be more comprehensive, which may include rationale for design comparison to alternatives, evaluation of important operating characteristics, adaptation plan, monitoring plan, data access plan, and stimulation report. So that we can also use simulations for in the planning. Bayesian adaptive design can also be used to explicit borrowing of informative priorities. There can be adaptations in time to event setting. Adaptation can be based on potential surrogate of intermediate endpoint. We can evaluate the secondary endpoints. Safety considerations can also be checked, and adaptations of early phase exploratory studies can also be beneficial. So there are complex innovative designs like adaptive designs, which are complex due to adaptation of multiple factors, and it also requires stimulations to determine the operating characteristics. The other designs which can incorporate are innovative use of external data, innovative criteria for decision making, and innovative collaborative efforts. So why the need to innovate? So basically, in the small populations, leverage other data sources to provide additional power. We can improve the decision making when reliable prior information is available to us, and we can optimize product development with coordinated trial structures. Ensure that the trial will be able to answer the relevant question, and it provide regulations with information which are needed for the decision. So why the need for FDA guidance? It is used to better understand the CBER or CDER acceptance of innovative design. We can better understand CDR expectations of information needed for the submission involving complex trials, and we can ensure consistency of advice about an acceptance of complex trials across therapeutic areas. So, under the small and limited populations, we can carry out a rare disease trial model. Basically, it will be an interest in design that use external patient control from a patient registries on natural history studies. There can be external control for the patient's arm for early phase trials. There can be information on disease progressions from natural history studied in order to improve the analytical model. And prior information is also available on the treatment effect of earlier phase trial. And there are endpoints which can maximize the power in presence of disease heterogeneity. So under Bayesian applications, we can measure the safety monitoring. Basically, there will be lack of CV risk studies that leverage control patient data from other source via Bayesian adaptive design. Under oncology trials, basically these are early phase dose finding trial designs, or we can say CRM, and Bayesian adaptive trials that use intermediate or accelerated approval endpoint for the decision making. And we can also carry out the rare disease models. Basically, there will be incorporation of prior information from early phase trials. We can use information about disease progression in analytical model. We can compute shrinkage estimator for effect of rare disease subsets, and we can also incorporate prior information for adult trial to improve the efficiency of pediatric trials. So under the master protocol, we can carry out multiple disease, multiple patient subgroups, or we can say biomarkers, and multiple therapies which can be studied under one arced protocol. There are various area of innovations, like we can establish a trial network with infrastructures in place to streamline trial logistic. We can improve data quality. We can facilitate data sharing and new data collection. We can develop a common protocol for the network that incorporate innovative statistical approach to study design and data analysis. So basically, a platform was carried out in 2014 to 2016. There was an Ebola outbreak, and we urgently required a therapies which are safe and effective. And due to limited or intermittent drug supply, for the several potential therapeutic agents were available, and we sponsors have a desire to maximize the information for potentially limited data. And we also required a flexible design and analysis of the trial design. So in the previous two, there was a shared control arm. It ability to stimulate to simultaneously evaluate multiple therapies. Add and remove treatment arm or Bayesian stopping rules can also be used in the trial designs. So under the PDUFA for complex innovative designs, or we can say CID, the objective is to facilitate the advancement and the use of complex adaptations, Bayesians and other novel clinical trial designs through the development of staff capacity, conducting a pilot program, convening a public workshop, publishing a draft guidance, and developing or revising relevant MAPP or SOPs and other review templates. So here the points to consider are eligibility criteria, timelines, submission expectations, disclosure, and communications. So I hope you have gained a lot of clinical information through this presentation. Please like, share, subscribe our YouTube channel named as British Biomedicine Institute. Good luck, goodbye.